Most buyers in Denver right now think they can't afford to buy a home. But when we dig in, it's almost never about the price of the home. It's always about the down payment. They've been told their whole lives you need 20% down. That one belief is keeping thousands of qualified buyers on the sidelines. So today, Adam and I are breaking down the myth wide open on a brand new episode of the Pursuit of Progress podcast. Because here's the truth. The buyers closing on homes in Denver right now, most of them are not putting 20% down. We're going to cover three things: the biggest down payment myths costing buyers money, the programs and strategies most buyers have no idea that exist, and what's actually working right now in this Denver market. Adam?
Yeah, what's up, Ben? Yeah, this is going to be a good one. We're actually, for everybody listening, we're actually getting ready to do a webinar on this tonight,
Yes,
right
we are.
afterwards. So we wanted just to share a few of the important aspects of the webinar with you guys on the podcast. But definitely, if that interests you at all, if what we're talking about today is really speaking your language, make sure you guys check out the next live webinar. We host them at least once, if not twice a month. Go to denverwebinar.com and grab a free seat there. And we'll go a lot more in depth on there than we will today on the podcast. But Ben, I'd love to just first talk to you a little bit about the biggest down payment myths, because this is something that I think right now is more important than ever
Yeah.
because of this horrible, horrible word that starts with the letter A, that is affordability. And it's just crushing people's dreams. And oftentimes maybe doesn't need to, because there are some myths around needing maybe a little bit more than people think when it comes to their down payment. So let's just start there. You know, everybody always assumes they need to put 20% down to buy a home. And the reality is that's just not the case. What is it actually? If you had to kind of guess, would you say like there's an average percentage overall in the industry versus maybe just like what you see most commonly with your clients?
I mean, I think that you hear the 20% down because people like Dave Ramsey are always preaching that. A lot of the online interest rate, the financing terms always reference a 20% down in the disclaimer. And so I think that's kind of where that comes from. But most buyers, or at least a lot of buyers, especially first-time home buyers who have never gone through this, they don't always understand. And there are programs out there right now in Denver and in other markets where you can put minimum down. Minimum down on a conventional loan would be 5%. Minimum down on an FHA loan would be 3.5%. There's also reduced down payment. Usually that's going to be restricted based off of the area median income. But in some cases, for conventional loan, you can put as little as 3% down. And then most markets, including Denver, are also going to have down payment assistance options. And right now, in Denver, there are buyers getting into homes with down payment assistance, grants, or silent second mortgages through various non-for-profit housing agencies, and they're coming into closing with $1,000 out of pocket, and uh, in some cases that's all they're coming into closing with, $1,000 out of pocket. So that is happening. I can tell you that's happening right now in Denver. And so if down payment is a concern for you, um, I would suggest having a conversation with a lender. See what you qualify for. Call me. Let's sit down. Let's talk. Let's see what you qualify for. I'm one of the top down payment assistance lenders in the state. Very familiar. A lot of our customers will use the CHAFA program, which is the Colorado Housing and Finance Agency. And if you're here in the state of Colorado, that is a statewide program. They offer about 8 or 9 different down payment assistance programs. Some are specific to first-time home buyers. They also have a first-generation buyer, but they have several programs, 6 or 7, that are available to anyone. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer. And so if this speaks to you, and if you've declared that you want to buy a home this year, but you're concerned about your down payment, there are options right now. And what's great about these programs is that the income limits are very, very high because Denver is a high cost market. And so a lot of these programs have income limits that are at 160, 170,000 or more.
That was what my question was going to be is, it's one thing for first time home buyers, but what about, a lot of other people that are also just feeling the pinch right now of affordability, and maybe they've owned a few homes in the past, maybe they're renting at the moment, and they, or also just at a point where they really aren't able to buy a home right now with a large down payment, and they really want to make this a reality, but they are a little bit higher of an incomes. 160, 170,000. That's great. And that's for household income or per person? I guess household, I would assume, right?
Yeah, that would be it's considered qualified income. And so what's great about that is your actual income in some cases can even be higher than that. It's what is the lender using to qualify you with? And so say for example, you get an hourly rate, you get overtime, you get a bonus, and then your spouse has a job, a salary, maybe they get commission. Some of that variable income you can leave off. And so even if your total income is greater than the income limit, as long as your qualified income, so maybe we're not using the overtime or the bonus or the commission income, as long as that qualified income is less than the income limit, you are eligible. Now, there are a couple programs that go off of household income, which is the total income of the household. That's a little bit different. But that's what's great about these programs is that the income limit is way above the area median. I think in Denver right now, it's around 120,000 is our area median income. And yeah, these programs will go up to 160, 170,000. What I'm seeing is I'm seeing this scenario more and more where sellers are currently selling a property. And instead of using the equity in that property to roll into another property for a down payment, they're taking their equity and they're paying off all of the debt that they have. So they're taking the equity from the sale, they're paying off their credit cards, maybe their auto loan, any other consumer debt that they have. And that really puts them in a better position from a monthly cash flow perspective and also from ability to qualify perspective. And then they're going back and looking or considering a down payment assistance loan to cover the down payment. So scenarios like that, even if you are not a first time home buyer, even if you own a home right now and you're going to be selling that, there are options and you can utilize grants, silent second mortgages, reduced down payments, minimum down payment, and down payment assistance options.
So the other two aspects that I'd like to maybe just get your take on before we wrap this one up. The first one is just for anybody out there that is not aware of what CHFA is. So CHFA is the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, and they're the ones that are oftentimes involved with some of these down payment assistance programs. Is that the one that you're using most commonly?
Yeah, CHFA is the largest non-for-profit housing agency in the state of Colorado. And so they set all of their programs. They also set the guidelines for the programs as far as who is eligible, what the income limits are, what the down payment assistance is. And the down payment assistance can change from year to year. Right now, their grant option is going to be 3% of the first loan amount. And so let's say that you're buying a house and the loan amount on the first mortgage is going to be 600,000. Well, in that case, the grant is 3% of the loan amount. So in that case, it would be 18,000. There's also a second option, which is the silent second mortgage option. That's a little bit different. It's still considered down payment assistance. That is a silent second mortgage, meaning that it's at 0% interest. You don't have to make payments on it, but you do have to repay it once the home is sold at the end of 30 years or if you ever refinance. Now, the benefit of the silent second mortgage is that you get 4% instead of 3%. So in that same scenario, if that first loan amount is 600,000, that grant option, you'd get 18,000, no strings attached. You don't have to repay it. The silent second mortgage, you get 4% or 24,000, but you do have to repay it. So some of that depends on what the buyer's goals are. But I mean, that's a tremendous amount in either case of down payment assistance. And so a lot of times that can be the difference between getting in the home or not. And then a lot of times what I'll see is the buyer's agent will request seller concessions at the same time on a sale. So the down payment assistance will cover the down payment, and then the seller will pay for all of the closing costs, prepaids, and impounds. And so that way, the buyer is literally only coming into closing with $1,000 out of pocket.
That's great. And then the other one that's really common that's not doesn't have anything to do with any sort of a program or a housing authority type scenario like this, but just family. Just to chat for a second about how common it is for parents, grandparents, just family members, the legal way that they're able to actually gift you part or even all of your down payment. So I know that not everybody has that fortune of that ability to lean on that, but I know that's still a very common thing. Maybe just a couple points on that. Is there maybe you don't know off the top of your head. I'm assuming from a tax perspective, if you're the parent or the family member that's gifting the money, there obviously is still a limit where you can gift. I know for a while it was what 24,500 annually before getting taxed. Anything above that, I'm assuming that's the same thing, even if it's going towards something like a house.
Yeah, there's not a limit on the gift, but there is a limit on when the gift starts to become taxable. And so I believe right now, if I recall correctly, I believe it's
I think it's higher.
19,000. So anything over
Yeah.
that could potentially, there could be some tax implications. I'm not an expert in that area though, and so my suggestion would be if that is you, or if you are getting a gift, you'd want to contact your tax professional, and they will be able to give you a correct answer on that. But that's a great point though. I have a deal that I'm working with right now, and the borrower's and the buyer's grandmother is providing a gift for the down payment. And not every buyer is going to have that option, but it is allowed. A gift can come from a friend, it can come from a family member, a parent, a sibling, a grandparent, really anyone that just has a documented relationship. And there aren't any restrictions on the amount of the gift. The gift could be for as little as $1,000 or cover the earnest money, or could cover 20% or more. So there's no restrictions on the gift. And that can be a great way to if you have someone in your family that wants to help out and they're willing to do that, that's an option. It's allowed. It's allowed on FHA, VA, conventional. It's allowed with every loan program. And then you can also, we're seeing more of this where family members are helping uh, young people qualify by co-signing on a mortgage, and that's very common as well, where you have a parent or a sibling or a grandparent co-sign on the mortgage with the primary applicant, so they can purchase.
Yeah, it's great. I think just the takeaway on my end, guys, is how important it is just to work with somebody like Ben that is just very educated on this, because the best way to really maximize is by stacking not just one of these programs, but just having this, triple play effect where you not only have maybe a CHAFA assistance, but you also, with working with your realtor, you've negotiated a seller paid closing cost credit. And then on top of all that, you also, the third one is that rate buy down where you're able to
Yeah.
maybe negotiate during the inspection, getting some money back, maybe some items that you've identified during the inspection that you're objecting to. And rather than maybe that getting fixed, maybe they're giving you a dollar amount as a credit at closing, and you can use that towards a permanent or a temporary buy down, which all three of those stacked on top of one another. I mean, man, you're still definitely in a position to win, even in these, times like right now that are a little bit harder for a lot of us.
It's so impactful and it's so powerful, Adam. And I think as a buyer, though, you have to dig up the courage to have the conversation and really seek out the professional help. Because if you don't share what those goals are or what your concerns, your lending professional, your real estate professional aren't going to be able to help you. So the first thing is just, and sometimes that can be a little bit intimidating to acknowledge, I might need some help with down payment, down payment, or I have some concerns about the monthly payment. I have a couple of first time home buyers, what you just said, that are closing next week. They're first time home buyers. They are getting a gift from their grandparents for the down payment. And then the seller is providing a seller credit for a 3-2-1 buy down. And so they're getting the down payment as a gift. The seller is providing a concession for the buy down. So their interest rate year one is going to be 3 full percentage points lower than what the note rate is. The note rate is in the low sixes. So for year one, they're going to have a interest rate in the low threes, and it's going to save them like $1,000 plus per month. And then in the low fours for year two, and then in the low fives for year three. So it's going to help them kind of ease into home ownership. And the great thing about these temporary buy downs, Adam, that we've talked about before, is that it's your money. And so if you get a buy down or a seller subsidy for 20,000, that money is actually placed in your escrow account. And if interest rates come down and you want to refinance, whatever that prorated balance is, you'll get it back. Or if you end up selling the property for whatever reason during the first 36 months, that money is your money. So whatever the balance is prorated for the first 36 months, you get all of that back. So it's just a great way to combat interest rate risk while taking advantage of lower monthly payments.
Love that. Yeah, you said that very well. Got me interested in thinking through a few things on mine, not just hearing you say that. So that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Well,
but
anything,
these are the conversations that, like, buyers don't know this stuff exists, though. Like we're talking about, like, down payment assistance is real. There are temporary buy downs. You can get a gift. There's other programs out there as well.
well, for anybody that's curious, I know I am, just to learn a little bit more, even as a professional myself in this industry. Ben, what's the best way they can get a hold of you and maybe dig a little deeper on this?
Yeah. My name is Benjamin Adams. I'm with North Point Bank. I'm a loan officer and a sales manager there out of our Littleton, Colorado office. My email address is benjamin.adams@northpoint.com. And my direct line is 602-904-2443.
We'll put all that in the show notes. And obviously, Ben's co host, he's here with us every week. But just since this one's a little bit more specific, if you guys need his info, definitely check him out there. Or you guys can also just shoot either of us a direct message on social media and we'll get you over to him. So, Ben, thanks, buddy. Looking
Okay.
forward to a fun night tonight with our webinar, our masterclass.
Right.
Again, guys, if you want to join the next one, just go to denverwebinar.com and sign up. Ben?
Love you guys. We'll see you next week.